All right, little guy, you ready? We got a lot of woodcutting to do. Let's go get this done, buddy. Welcome back to Time Traveller Ironman. In the previous part, we were able to achieve 70 fletching by fletching willow longbows unstrung and selling them to the general store in Catherby. And today, of course, we'll continue working towards that 80 fletching goal. Without hesitating any further, let's go ahead and jump back into March of 2002. Okay, now time to commence with the second part of our journey, and that's another 60-hour grind to chop about 8,500 yew logs. This is going to take a while. I'm going to be chopping them here at the Sears Village Church, as it's a pretty iconic place to chop them, and it's pretty close to the bank. It's also one of the only places in RuneScape Classic where more than one yew tree existed in the same area. That's actually a thing worth noting. Where I was chopping the willows, there was actually no willows in RuneScape Classic, so in theory I should have been able to chop them there. Unfortunately, I didn't think to look at this until I was almost done with that grind, so you could consider that a little bit of an unintended exception I took, though I don't usually enforce specific things about the map, such as where trees are located, as it's almost impossible to know where every little individual change happened. That said, because this place tends to overlap with a pretty nostalgic and efficient area to chop them for me, I'll be chopping them here. Let's get this done. There's 74 woodcutting as well. Almost forgot to touch on this. Getting 70 fletching off of willows got me almost to 74 woodcutting, and I'm almost at 10 million total experience, which is a pretty nice milestone. The woodcutting experience is just coming so easy with fletching. And boom, there's 75 woodcutting. The biggest milestone so far is it allows us to chop magic trees. However, we're a long way away from actually being able to do anything from them, as fletching is lagging far behind, unsurprisingly. Back to chopping yews. So I've been here for around 10 hours now, and I'm surprised at the number of people I see who are also woodcutting. As you can see, there's a person here with a dragon axe who's just chopping away. I'm surprised that this place is still so popular. You would think most people would be going to the woodcutting guild for yews, or even a place that's just a little closer to a bank, but here we are. Also, I have no idea how these people are moving twice as fast as I can. Could someone enlighten me on how these people are doing this? I have no idea how they're moving so quickly. Like, what the heck? I mean, if it wasn't for the constant stream of agility trainers running in the background, this really feels like it could be actual 2007. Like, look at this champion here. Absolutely classic outfit. Gotta love the full dragon with the red party hat. Can't say I've ever seen someone power chop yew logs before. Okay. So, I have good news and I have bad news. Which do you want to hear first? The good news? Okay, great. Basically, we're about a quarter of the way done chopping the yews. That's great. It's going faster than I expected, mostly just because it's so brain dead that I can just do it while I'm doing literally any other work. The bad news? So this bank in Sears Village did not exist in RuneScape Classic. As far as I can tell, it doesn't appear until RuneScape 2 release, and I have no idea how I missed this. So unfortunately, all of the time that I spent banking here is not something I would have been able to do, so that's a oopsie whoopsie on my part. And unfortunately, it does mean that we will be banking these yews in Catherby. I'm still pretty sure that this is the closest place to a bank that has more than one yew available for the time period. It just means that the walk is going to be like twice as far. Alright, I took a small break from the woodcutting to actually complete the 2021 RuneScape Halloween event. And I did this out of order because I wanted these items in my inventory. I destroyed all the other cosmetics, but these will be really handy when we actually hit October of 2002. Looking towards the future, we all know that the Halloween masks were released then, so I'm going to keep them in the bank. You'll probably see them in there, but they'll become relevant then. So I've pretty much become numb to dismissing genies and surprise exam events, but this still hurts. Every single one I dismiss could be a stale baguette. Goodbye. Pretty monumental occasion here. If I go ahead and deposit this load of logs, that's officially over halfway in terms of yew logs. So it's still gonna be a while. Somehow I've been here for like 30 hours and someone finally told me to go to the Woodcutting Guild. That took longer than I thought. One of the weirdest parts of this grind is that I literally walk by this massive clump of yew trees that is so much closer to my target bank than the ones I'm actually chopping every time I bank. And it just feels weird. Like, I know they didn't exist, but I still want to chop them. Alright, there's 80 woodcutting. This is the last big milestone that we'll hit on the way to this fletching goal, but it's a really nice one to have nonetheless. I completely spaced out and walked way to the west of the church and unlocked a new music track, which is lasting. Just goes to show you how long I've been stuck in this one little area. Oh, and another new track, Talking Forest. I don't even know if those areas existed yet, so I'm gonna get the heck out of here. And here we go, the end of about 90 hours of woodcutting with a simple deposit of 13 yew logs into the bank. That gives us an even 8,300 yew logs. Oh my goodness, I'm so done chopping yews, it's not even funny. But unfortunately, that's not the end for us. We can unequip the axe for now, but we still have many hours of grinding ahead. It just will look a little different. Also, I finished up with just over 82 woodcutting, which is absolutely ridiculous. I didn't think I'd get this high. I didn't actually run the calculations on the woodcutting experience gain. That is such a high woodcutting level to have, having gotten it with a mithril axe. Oh my goodness. Of course, yew logs do not do us any good without bowstrings to actually string the bows. So of course we have to pick and spin exactly 8,300 bowstrings in order to be able to complete the fletching goal. This is going to be quite a grind. I estimate it's probably going to take about 15 to 20 hours. Thankfully, that's not as bad as the woodcutting grind was. I've spent well over 150 hours on woodcutting already, getting up to 70 fletching in those yew logs. So it won't be anything compared to that, but it will be a little bit more painful as it's something that is very click intensive versus something that is extremely AFK. Unsurprisingly, the only place to pick flax is here in the Sears flax field, the very classic place that all of us picked flax as absolute noobs back in the mid 2000s. Is no different here. The only flax plants that exist in the entire game world. Now there are actually a couple of options for spinning wheels, but unsurprisingly as well, this is going to be the best spinning wheel for us to use. The lumberjack spinning wheel is not as useful as the bank is not accessible there, so I'll just be spinning my flax as soon as I pick them before I bank them. And this is also going to be pretty great because of course you get crafting experience for spinning flax. So I'll get a nice chunk of crafting experience from this grind. And the last very unsurprising part of this grind is we have to bank in the Catherby bank, just like with the yews. It would be so much faster to be able to bank in the Sears bank, but it doesn't exist for some reason. That's so strange to me. So it's going to be quite the walk to and from. I'm going to have to start in the Sears bank, walk all the way up to the flax fields, then traverse my way to the spinning wheel, then go all the way back to the bank and repeat. Need to do this around 300 times, and it's going to be quite the journey. Okay, with this inventory of bowstrings, you can see that I have finally reached the halfway point. I'm actually over the halfway point as I've only got 4,000 bowstrings left to do. It's still about 16 hours away though, so I have a lot more to go. Since the last update, Jagex came out with an update that actually increased bank space for all members, so I went ahead and I readjusted my bank fillers so that I still only have 96 spaces available to me, and as you can see, I've got 1 space left because of the rares I got from the Halloween event, so I'm gonna have to consider purging some stuff soon. Bank space is still more of a problem than I thought it would be. Now at this point in the video, you're probably wondering, where the heck is the beaver? Everyone on the last video made it abundantly clear that I should hold on to it as a sort of excessive luck exception. That is to say, it's an extremely rare event, so I should just hold on to it even though it's technically breaking the rules of the account. It's also pretty much just a cosmetic that doesn't benefit me in any way, so I agree, I think it makes sense to hold on to it. So I don't like to take these kinds of exceptions without having some sort of trade-off or interesting price that needs to be paid in order to take it, and there was a comment on the last video that had a really good idea in regards to this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the beaver out all the time, but I'm not going to insure it. That effectively means my beaver is a hardcore Ironman, so it'll be interesting to see if I can keep it very long. As you know, of my deaths in this series so far, 1 was to a level 2 man and 1 was to a tree, so I'm not doing very good in regards to staying alive so far. So the only thing left to do now is I think the beaver needs a name, so go ahead and leave a comment down below about what you think we should name the beaver, and I'll pick the best one for the next video. Thankfully right now, buddy, we're doing a pretty safe activity, just picking some flax, so you don't have much to worry about, but oh man, I fear for the future for you, little guy. Well, there's 71 crafting. It's not a ton of experience to do this, unfortunately. It's something like 4,500 experience per hour, but it does add up. And this is effectively passive crafting experience for me anyways, so I'm not complaining at all. Won't get 72 from this grind though. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy right here. This guy is pretty obnoxious. He goes and he picks all of my flax that I'm trying to pick, and it's really annoying, especially in this area where I usually pick in this one long line. A long time coming, but with this inventory of bowstrings, that finally puts us over the 8,300 mark. Matched up with the yew logs here, that means I can officially craft 8,300 yew longbows, and that'll put me all the way up to 80 fletching. Unfortunately, this process is not going to be very fast. It's actually going to take around 15 or 16 hours. Thankfully, that is less than everything I've done so far, so it should feel fast, but it's still a ways off, unfortunately. But basically, all we need to do is pull a knife out of the bank, pull the logs out of the bank, and we can go ahead and fletch them into the yew longbows unstrung, which we will then attach bowstrings onto after that. And between all that process combined, get up to the 80 fletching required. I'm really happy to finally be on this point, as this is going to be the chillest point of this entire grind, and it should go pretty fast. All right, there's 75 fletching, which is not quite halfway to 80 from 70, but a good amount of progress along the way. And also very notable as it allows me to fletch rune arrows, which are going to be incredibly useful when I finally get my hands on that MSB. Now I am actually going to be requiring myself to fletch some rune arrows for the goals for this month, but it's not really a big deal as I don't need to smith them. Thankfully, Hickton's fletching shop was released this month and he sells rune arrow tips right in the shop. So I'll just buy a few of these, fletch some rune arrows, and it'll be totally fine. No real grind there. Just 3 yew logs left to fletch, and we're all done with the fletching portion of this grind. So we just have to go ahead and string all of these next. And believe it or not, the stringing is actually faster than the cutting part of this grind, so it shouldn't be too bad. The end is in sight. Hey Kuda, why are you fletching bows at 2 in the morning? Because I've lost control of my life. So this is actually my very last inventory of yew longbows, and unsurprisingly, this should probably be a meme at this point, I have planned very poorly and I do not actually have enough experience to hit the goal. At least this time it's only like 3k experience and not like 11k when it was Herblore, but geez, why am I so bad at planning this stuff out? Ugh. So unfortunately that means I need to go back to the Willows, but just for a little bit. Also, I'm so sorry for my voice. I actually got COVID over the course of this episode. That's literally how long this has taken. I was healthy at the beginning and now I'm not. I don't feel too bad, but it does mean that you have to listen to my gravelly ass voice, which has gotta be unpleasant, so I'm so sorry. And finally, here we are, the end of a journey that at this point has been at least 200 hours. I can't believe how long this has taken. 80 fletching achieved. Let us hesitate no further and chop down one of these magic trees to get that magic short bow. The only magic trees in the game at this point, as far as I know, existed here outside the Sorcerer's Tower, which we'll need to visit again at some point in the near future to complete the new quest for this month as well. But thankfully there's 4 trees here, so if I do want to chop magic trees, there'll be plenty for me to chop. And there we go, our first magic log and our ability to make our first magic short bow. Let's go ahead and fletch that. Add just a simple bowstring, which is a little weird that all of these bows just require a basic bowstring, even though this one is significantly more powerful than any of the lower tiers. And then we can go ahead and throw that on, and we have unlocked the highest DPS item in the game at this point, at least on low defense monsters. Now this wasn't necessarily the case back in RuneScape Classic, as all weapons had the same attack speed, and range in general was a little bit more utility based and less of a direct combat style, as once you got into melee range with a monster, you would just begin punching them with the bow anyway. However, considering we're on the RS2 engine and old school here, the magic short bow is just incredible. It's a tick faster than any of the melee weapons I have access to, and it can hit massive amounts of damage if I use a high tier of arrow. Also worth noting that of course I cannot use the special attack on this yet, though that is also extremely powerful and I'm looking forward to the day when I can. So I realized I never actually really explained why I chose to go through with this method that I did, fletching yew longbows for the fletching experience, when there was probably faster methods either doing some type of arrows or lower tier wood. And that's all about the money, honestly.
We've got to have money.
If I were to high elk every single one of these yew longbows, I would get just over 6 million gold. And that's going to be enough money to carry me through basically the rest of RuneScape Classic. There's not really a whole lot you need to buy at this point in the game, and I really just wanted to get all that money knocked out in one fell swoop, and this felt like a great opportunity to do that. Now there is still one problem with that plan, and that's that I don't have a renewable source of nature runes, one that can be purchased or obtained very easily, so I'm not going to be able to convert these all to cash just yet. That's where the Willow Longbow Unstrung money comes in, as this should hopefully tide me over until a time where I can get easier nature runes. If I absolutely need to, I can slow sell these to the shop in Varrock for high alchemy price, but I'm going to try to avoid doing that as long as I possibly can to maximize the amount of money and magic experience that I can gain from them. Ideally, I'll even be able to delay completely selling them until RuneScape 2, as it'll be a lot faster to convert them at that point, as I'll be able to use banknotes. And don't forget, I also crafted the 15,000 steel arrows, which will be my primary ammunition with the bow going forward. You'll be seeing a lot more of this bow in the near future. It is such an incredible upgrade. I cannot overstate that. So next things next, of course, we have to address that rune arrow situation I talked about before. Should be relatively simple. I just made myself some headless arrows and I'm going to be purchasing some rune arrow tips from the shop here. They are quite expensive, so I'm not going to go out of my way to get a lot right now. Only 150. Looks like I'm probably going to grab about maybe 40-ish per world and then I'll hop. Yeah, that sounds good. And there we go. 150 rune arrow tips acquired. Go ahead and throw those onto the arrow shafts here, and the first rune arrows on the account. Now unfortunately these are extremely expensive for me to use, so I'm definitely not going to be using them anywhere for a while. I'm sure there'll be places where it's worth bringing them out, but I'll be using lower tier arrows basically everywhere for a long time. They have over 3 times the range strength of the steel arrows though, so that's ridiculous. And just one last thing for this video. I can't believe that I actually started this fletching grind before Halloween and now it's Christmas, and that's just ridiculous. It took so long to get this level. Just like with the Halloween event, I did complete the Christmas event. I'm only going to hold on to 2 items. One of them is the Santa hat, which will be released later this year, and then the other one is the white party hat. I wasn't able to have this on the account for Christmas last year because I created my account after the last Christmas event, but now I have it as a bit of a backlogged item, and it was my favorite party hat basically for my entire time playing this game, so I'll be wearing that for the season. And there's just one thing left to say in this episode, and that's a huge Merry Christmas to everyone. This is the year that really launched my channel, and I'm eternally grateful for everyone who has subscribed or continues to watch my videos. I'm incredibly happy to be able to keep making this content, and I'm so excited to see where the channel can go from here. The journey has been incredible so far, and it's just gonna keep getting better, I think. And an extra huge thanks, of course, to those who have joined the channel membership program, especially OneKiller912 and Peepo Time, the channel members who have joined at that top tier. Thanks to your support, I've been able to invest so much more into the channel and the videos here, and I am eternally grateful. With all of that out of the way, I bid you farewell. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, and I will see you in the new year for our next grind. And it's going to be another big one. And the worst part, we can't even take this beautiful short bow that we just made along with us. We'll see you next time.